Hello, my name is Sage, and this is an energy reading for you. I'm going to be reading from my notes here. So when I went into your energy fields, we were walking into a cave. It was really beautiful. There's a lot of crystals all on the walls and the ceiling, and we had flashlights. We were looking around. And I don't know if you've ever heard the term spelunking, but that's kind of what we were doing with like cave exploring. And I asked, why are we here? And you said, looking for mermaids. I said, ooh, fun. What do mermaids represent to you? So this would be a good time to ask yourself. And I said, do you think if we got in the water, we would have a better chance of finding them? And you said, probably, but I don't want to get into water I can't see, because the water was getting very murky. And I said, well, why is that? You said, I don't want to find something I'm not prepared for. What we were referencing was shadow work. Like there's something in my subconscious and I don't know what it is, and it might take me by surprise. And I asked, well, what if we jump in together? Or ask whatever it is in the water to come up here so we can see it more clearly, like with our flashlights. This is when your 13-year-old was standing behind me, like kind of holding onto my shirt. And they said, okay. And I turned around and said, oh, it's so nice to meet you. I asked, would it be okay if we changed scenery? And they said, you can do that? And I said, we can do that because we're in your subconscious, your imagination. Now we're in a cosmic cafe, like a coffee shop, and there's celestial artwork everywhere. Me and your 13-year-old are sitting in a booth, and there's a pool underneath us. Have you ever seen the ocean when they have these like tropical smoothie places that you can kind of swim up to and get a drink? Kind of like that. They're sitting in a booth and there's a pool of water and there's mermaids swimming around serving the drinks. And your 13-year-old was like, oh my gosh. And I said, I know. Because that's what they were seeking in the first place, that kind of celestial mermaid energy. I said, do you see that suggestion box over there? It's like a wooden box that was hanging on the wall. I said, how about we go over and see what's inside? I said, this is going to be whatever wants to be worked on, that ooky spooky stuff at the beginning of our journey. So they put their hand in and pulled out a piece of paper, and they're like, ooh, it's wrapped in like glittery, sparkly paper. And I was like, yeah. So I asked, what does it say? And they said, I feel like every time I try and start something, I'm not able to follow through. So, was that scary as it was before? And they said, no. So that's because we're observing it from a playful energy instead of reacting. We shifted the energy before working on it because heightened negative emotions cloud your thinking because of cortisol and adrenaline. It's creating fear. And it's difficult to work through fear when you are feeling fear. And the fear in this case is failing. That's where every time we try and start something, we feel like we're not able to follow through. But now that we have neutralized the energy by going to the cosmic cafe, it's just a fact that we're working on, and it's not a personal dig. So for this upcoming chapter of your life, your future self is saying, hey, there are some things that are down in our subconscious that maybe we haven't gotten to yet, even though we have done so much self-awareness work, and you can kind of sense that they're in there. But sometimes when we are working on things that are with our inner children, they can feel an immense amount of pressure, either that they're going to be in trouble, chastised, punished, just in general, or maybe even from us as the future self. And we're coming in and say, I love you unconditionally. And we can make this fun and magical and whimsical. It doesn't have to be this heavy, dense trauma situation. That honestly is the best way to help them through things, because going through all of it, they've already done that. What we need to do is offer different perspectives and ways of interacting with what has hurt them in the past. And oftentimes that's creating this really fun, imaginative scenery that gives them the feelings of safety and security of, oh, you know what, this can actually feel like a breath of fresh air instead of what I thought it was going to be. And that's actually what's going to help us work through those lingering behavioral patterns or negative thoughts or programming from the past that is directly correlated with our inner children, but in a way that feels so much lighter for the both of you. So this might look like starting out in the cave like we did, or whatever type of scenery that your inner children want to show you, and then navigating into a much more playful place. And if this is something you'd like some extra support with, one, illuminating what might still be lingering and helping them navigate through it, or specifically working through starting things and not following through. Because there could be a lot of different reasons as to why that's happening, and sometimes it's not necessarily a personality trait. Sometimes it's being neurodivergent, or not having the structural systems that you need, or someone brainstorming with you and figuring out what your next steps are. If any of that sounds of interest to you, I do offer sessions that you can find in my bio, and I'm wishing you an absolutely magical day.